Hello and welcome to World of Tanks with Trapsikis. I was fortunate enough to be on the friendly team here in my T25 pilot. However, my game was very bad, so I'm not going to be commentating about my own gameplay. We're looking at the player called Xabka, I guess. I'm not sure what the pronunciation is. Please feel free to correct me, but I will be calling him Xabka for the remainder of this replay. Right, so he's playing in the Emil II Tier 9 Swedish heavy tank. Compared to the other Tier 9 autoloader, the AMX5120, it's got a bit lower DPM, a bit lower penetration, and the gun handling isn't quite as good. Aim time is 0.1 second behind, dispersion is 0.02 behind, but what he does have in armor makes up for those disadvantages. He's got frontal turret armor of 250mm and it's sloped back at nearly 45 degrees. So the turret is extremely hard to penetrate, which makes this a formidable machine to face if he gets into a hold down position. Right, so puts in a couple of shells into the super Pershing there. This one unfortunately bounces, and we don't know what the result was for that one. Empties his clip and goes into a reloading position. And now just a word of caution. When you're playing on the Paris map, I'm just going to pause for a second here and use the free look. This middle section here is important to keep an eye on. Even though you've got allies there, it's possible for enemies to move up behind those stairs if they're not suppressed effectively, and they can then put side shots into you. So, as you can see, this can be a big problem, especially if you've got side armor like the Emil II does. I believe the side armor is in the region of, let's get the actual numbers, 60mm for the hull and 120mm for the turret, so not very good side armor at all. If you get side shot, you're in trouble. Right, so you see xabka has switched to heat, which is a safer bet for penetrating the front of and the angled fronts of the enemies he's facing, especially considering he's facing an Emil II, which does have very good turret armor, and in that position he can get hull down, so it's very hard to get a penetrating hit. Now this was quite a tricky match because, as you'll see on the map, we had a couple of heavies doing either sniping or spotting. I'm not sure what they were trying to do, which cost us the advantage of having the heavies where one would expect them to go. So, and for myself in the 25 pilot, having not very good armor, not very good mobility, I was very confused. As you'll see, I'm driving around trying to figure out where I can make a difference for my team, because I don't have great armor and I don't have great mobility, so I can't do a light tanks roll and I can't do a heavy tanks roll. So for me this was quite tricky. But anyway, back to xabka's roll. Unfortunately, the enemy WZ finding a penetrating hit at the bottom of his turret there, which it's quite tricky to say whether or not he should have been able to penetrate. But big old hit of 522 damage there, taking a significant percentage off of xabka's hit points. Now reloading, and this Oho is in trouble. So while reloading, obviously you have to be considerate of your teammates, but also of your own position. You're not any help if you're just sitting there taking shots. So fall back, allow your reload to complete, and then punish the WZ. Right, very effective clip going to the WZ, all 4 shells penetrating. And I'm not going to do a tally, but I can take a quick glance. Slightly above average, so just over 1600 damage done in one clip. Falling back to reload, the Oho being dangerously close to death, a one shot for any of the one tanks facing him. And I'm just going to speed it up a little bit here. So now reloaded, yeet again. He sees the side of the turret of the VK, but the VK moves, so the lower hull is a better option. Unfortunately, his track's being blown off, but not taking any hit points damage. Right, so the VK realizes he's in trouble, tries to back off, but xabka denies him the opportunity of falling down the bridge and takes the kill. Right, things looking a bit better. I'm just going to speed up for the reload here. These reloads are quite time consuming. Now that he's reloaded, the Oho has fallen to the WZ. So this is a bit tricky. The charioteer, hopefully with his gun, will be able to provide some assistance. And wisely, xabka picks the more dangerous enemy to eliminate first, and then the lurver. Right, so now one shell remaining. It's very tricky because you won't be able to eliminate an enemy, but he will be able to do some damage. So the enemy Emil obviously waiting for him to make a mistake. Unfortunately, he does find him, but fortunately that's an extremely low roll. Almost as low as you can go with the Emil. I believe the lowest roll you can get is 300. This was 304, so 96 of the 100 hit points below average. So lucky for xabka there. Now reloading, switching to APCR, because as mentioned before, if you hit the upper hull of the Emil II, even with heat, you'll probably bounce. So APCR is probably the more economic bet, especially since xabka only has one reload of APCR remaining. So you need to be aware of how many shells you've got and how many enemies you've got. The Super Pershing and the IS-6, both with significant frontal armor. You may need all 4 of his heat shells later on. And unfortunately, the T-49 does a boatload of damage to the charioteer there with his derp gun, and then disappears behind the building, so xabka is unable to punish him for it. Now, in a bit of a tricky situation, 3 versus 5, not easy, and waiting for the T-49 to appear. Now, his 6th sense goes off, so he's obviously spotted, so the T-49 managed to get behind that bush and spot him. But fortunately, the IS-6 is not responding, so either AFK or with a crashed client. But xabka doesn't waste time wondering why and abuses the opportunity well. Right, speeding up for the reload again. Spotted again, so the T-49 has come up to look at him. In this kind of situation, you need to be very aware of your length of reload and try to eliminate enemies in such a way that you can relocate and or be safe while reloading. I believe it's about 30 or 40 seconds reload for this tank. I'll check it up quickly. So for a complete clip reload, you're looking at 39.16 base reload time, which is a significant amount of time, especially in the end game like this, where all the enemies will be focusing on either yourself or the light tank. Personally, I would aim for the light tank first because it's easier to penetrate, and once eliminated, the heavy tank is slower, so it's easier to hunt down. Right, good hit put in the T-49 there. Now he's a one-shot. The Super Pershing is a one-shot, and the IS-6, I believe, still needs 2 shots. I'm not quite sure. The T-49, as you could have glanced there, also a one-shot. Unfortunately, that one going a bit low, not finding the mark. Only 2 shells remaining in this clip, which is, again, something you need to be aware of. The number of shells remaining and your reload. If you have an opportunity, even if your clip isn't empty, take it. But this was a very good shot. Now the IS-6 and the Super Pershing, very good there, penetrating through the tracks. Lucky that he didn't require the full aim time. Now the IS-6 is a one-shot, the T-49 is a one-shot, and the Bulldog is an unknown at the moment. Right, reloading his heat to make sure that whatever he hits on the IS-6 will probably penetrate. IS-6 not having great amounts of spaced armor, except obviously for the tracks. So be careful when you're loading heat, don't aim for the tracks. Interestingly, xabka is telling his team that he's got 13 seconds left, so only for the people spectating. Right, T-49 eliminated. Bulldog still 407 hit points. That's a tricky one. A good roll will eliminate him, but a bad roll won't, and you've got 2 shells left of your last heat magazine. So Now that shell flying wide. This is a bit of a tricky situation, so you need to figure out where the IS-6 is. Aha! Very nice. Now he's got a problem. The Bulldog knows where he is. He knows he's probably reloading if he's counting shells. So xabka needs to move. Fortunately, that shell flies high over his tank and he's able to get hull down. But everyone knows the M41 is much faster than the Emil, so he is in a bit of trouble here. Takes one shot. Now, he should not die from another shot. It should take another 2 at least from the Emil, from the M41. And fortunately, that one is low enough. But now is a one shot, and the Bulldog will require at least one more. And a low roll, of course. But fortunately, xabka is able to reload his second shell in the cartridge before the M41 can take a shot back at him. Only but barely. 32 hit points remaining, and probably less than half a second from being shot back by the Bulldog. Very well done, and thank you for carrying us. Now let's have a look at the post-game stats. Unsurprisingly, an ace tanker there. I'm not going to go into the minor awards, but the Radley Walter for 8 kills there, and then the Top Gun, Steel Wall, and High Caliber. If you look at the team details, you'll see nobody was even able to do half as much damage. At just over 9,000, that's a whopper, with 1,901 base XP. That's a very high base XP for a tier 9 game, especially considering that he was top tier. There weren't any tier 10s to kill. And on the personal details, running a personal account, even though he shot out all of his heat shells, he still managed to make a profit of over 60,000 credits. Thank you for carrying us, and please do correct my pronunciation of your name. And thank you for watching.